With Gateway in the books and Sonoma on the horizon, Brian and I are here to recap all that was the Enjoy Illinois 300, as well as get ready for some road course action as NASCAR heads to wine country this week. All of that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, still in fabulous Las Vegas. Gateway was a little bit of a shit show, a little bit of a frustration factor. Thoughts and prayers to anyone who had a Ryan Blaney outright. Thoughts and prayers to anyone who had a Christopher Bell outright prior to that. If you had Bell outrights, if you had Bell matchups, I'm sorry, but Brian was there. I was there. What a crappy ending to an okay race, and of course fucking Austin Cindric is finding victory lane. What a dumb race.
Yeah, like, look, I gotta eat crow on this one. I talked a lot of shit about Austin Cindric and the expectation that he was gonna wind up falling back in the pack, and the dude absolutely put together an incredible race, his best race since winning the Daytona 500 2 years ago. So, kudos to him. I actually think he was, as a whole, probably the most consistent driver on Sunday, just because he maintained his track position all day. And you can say that Ryan Blaney was going to win had he not run out of gas, but Cindric was better than Blaney for the majority of the race, and it was only a faster pit stop and a pit stop strategy that Blaney actually jumped him in the running order on track. And I think that was also an indication of the type of racing we saw, where the actual on track product really wasn't that good. Like it was crappy. It was basically a short track race in an intermediate package, because passing was almost non-existent. The only guy that was able to do it was really Christopher Bell, who once again had the best car on track, and had his engine not blown up, I'm wholeheartedly convinced that he runs away and wins this by 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So
no, it felt like he was gonna win. And then it felt like he was still going to be able to win some of his matchups thanks to Martin Truex pushing him. And then obviously that time just went away far too fast. What a frustrating end to that race. And then Ryan Blaney. And then like Austin Cindric, he was a solid car. He was really good.
It was track position.
He was never going to win that race if the field stayed the way it was. And if he got stuck back in trap, he was dead. Chris Bell was able to move through the field and get to the front. And as you mentioned with Ryan Blaney, he made some smart decisions, which Ryan Blaney and pit road, actually going well for him, don't usually go in the same sentence, but
so I'm actually glad you brought that up, because those two things right there, I think, are the story of the day for Tyler Reddick. One was good, one wasn't. Like the first pit stop, Reddick lost 20 spots on pit road. He went from running 8th to outside the top 25. And then late in the race, he, along with Christopher Bell, were really the only guys that were able to run through the field. And at one point, I thought Reddick was going to be able to get to the front and potentially challenge for a race win, which I would have been extremely happy about, by the way. But, Reddick did come home. He cashed his top 5 number. I hammered his top 10 bet here in Vegas for an absurd amount. So I was happy there. And then, just as a whole, the race was good. I enjoyed it. I took a little bit of a hit on the chin in terms of my personal bankroll, because I for only the 3rd race out of the year since I've been really betting heavy, I didn't have any ticket on the outright winner. So, that kind of hurt me for the weekend. But yeah, they got to figure out something for the actual on track racing, whether we go back to the horsepower conversation, because you simply cannot pass. It's strategy based. It's on pit road. It's who's pitting first and all that garbage. We want to see stuff on track happen.
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I loved Xfinity in Portland, and I think it would be really fun to punt on St. Louis and take it to Portland, which would be with the Cup cars. But totally understand why they're hitting St. Louis. It's a big market. It's one that's coveted NASCAR, and they've been selling it out the last couple of years, so I don't envision them going anywhere, even if the conveyor belt is fully operational. I do think it's really funny, the Austin Cindric discourse, I guess. He looked good in practice, but this is a guy who has 2 top 20 finishes on the season. He's a guy that finishes between 25 and 30 outside of Daytona and Atlanta, which are basically, super speedway
Yeah,
tracks.
it's super speedway races.
So like I don't, of the every other track, he's only been in the top 20 at Coda and Dover. And obviously
Again, I do not apologize one bit for like
no.
fading the hell out of him.
No,
DFS, yeah,
I would line up and do it again. And he's supposed to be a guy who's good at shorter tracks like we saw today, or we saw on Sunday, and he's supposed to be good at road courses. But at road courses, like he's
yeah,
what
he struggled there too
18th
recently.
at Coda. He was what we were in one other one. I don't know. I'm not seeing it right now, but yeah, it's been a rough season for him and his team, and honestly, we seemed more likely that he would be out of the Cup car and then winning a race, but he managed to luck box his way into a win, so good on him. I guess I can bring up our DraftKings lineups and talk a little bit about what we did, what we saw, and what went right, and a lot of what went wrong. So let me share my screen, as I feel like I went like 6 rounds with Tyson on with my betting card because it was so much red. All right, so this is one lineup. Was our Penske lineup, which in theory should have done better, but Josh Berry obviously crashing early was not great.
And Ryan
Cindric,
Blaney
we had
running out of
Cindric,
gas.
we had Logano, we had Blaney. Yeah, Blaney wins and Cindric second. Probably looks a lot better. And then he obviously affected there. Chris Buescher, was he bad, or was he just kind of a victim of getting stuck back in traffic and then not being able to get out of the way? Because it
Yeah,
felt like at points he could be decent and then he would kind of fade away.
it was track position, no doubt. Like it,
Mhm.
again, if you go back and you rewatch the race, there was only a handful of guys that were able to maneuver through the field, with actual like pace difference from the rest of the drivers. And that was Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and maybe Keselowski could do it a little bit, but that was when they were up near the front. That wasn't from the middle of the pack, trying to maneuver through a gobble of cars. Like it was difficult. And Josh Berry, had he not wrecked, I do think he was somebody that was going to contend towards the front because he was making passes on the outside while nobody else could make it stick out there. So
Yeah.
I think Berry had a really good car. I'm really sad we did not get to see him complete the race. Apparently, they ran over something after the first caution flag. So,
Yep.
but they put themselves in that situation by speeding on pit road. So he has nobody to blame but himself.
Yep. And then Chase Briscoe was actually flirting with the top 5 for a while, but then kind of Chase Briscoe his way out of the conversation pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
Also really frustrating that we have to look at 4 red overstock cars and just basically the roof, whatever the roof color was, is the one that you need to pay attention to.
Right.
So dumb. But I guess that's part of why Stuart Haas is getting out of racing. And then we did this lineup. Truex. I never felt like Truex was very good. I felt like he was fine. I
Yeah.
definitely don't think he was like a last place car, but I don't think he was the contender we thought he could be. Reddick was good. Buescher, we talked about. I'm so mad about Chastain. This dude was flirting with the top 10. I thought he was going to get there. And then, of course, he gets stuck and finishes 12th. That was one of my biggest bets of the day. And then
Chastain is in a spot right now where I cannot back him betting DFS. Like
I need to get off Trackhouse, as I probably bet Trackhouse this week, but I can't help myself. And shouts to Justin Haley, top 10, baby. Let's
Justin
go.
Haley, baby. Let's
Rick
go.
Ware Racing, thriving and surviving. Look at them. And this is a Truex Bell lineup. Obviously, Bell was great, even though he ended up finishing 7th. Stupid Kyle Busch.
I
Not
know.
only did he ruin his day, but he messed up Larson's car, and Larson still managed to pull a top 10. So shouts to Worm and everybody else who got on those Larson top 10s at good prices. But I feel like he should have had a better day and just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, I didn't understand. So after that wreck happened, I thought for sure that Larson was also going to be out of the race because he slammed his right rear pretty hard there. And I thought that the Larson plus money matchup against Martin Truex Jr. was destined to fail, although Truex was multiple laps down pretty much from the get. And
Yeah.
somehow they were able to just stay on track and continue
Yeah.
on with the race. So that
Top
that was a
10.
little surprising to me.
Speaking of Larson, we should mention that he did get his waiver. They announced that today.
Rightfully so.
I didn't think there was any doubt. Of course, Denny was on his podcast saying, "I don't think you should get it." Yeah, because you're scared of him, Denny. You know, if he goes, you guys both are in Phoenix in the championship 4, he's gonna beat you. So
That is the most contradictory statement from a guy who's constantly trying to grow the sport.
I mean,
Kyle
it's
Larson,
the Denny Hamlin experience. He's gonna be the one whining about getting pushed up the track or pushed around or whatever. But as soon as he gets a little annoyed and turns down into somebody, he's like, "What? I just needed to get track position."
yeah, because
That's Denny Hamlin in a nutshell.
Kyle Larson attempting the double probably gives NASCAR more attention than it does 35 or 34 out of the other 36 weekends of the year outside of the championship race and the Daytona 500. Like,
And as they mentioned in the statement, the key, if the Indy 500 doesn't have weather issues, he's trying to get to the race to do both. He was ready to
yeah.
run for the Coke 600 if the weather wasn't bad. Like, I don't know.
And it's not like we're talking about a guy who's a fringe playoff contender. Guy's the
Right.
best driver in the sport. And he
Exactly.
already has a win, and he's going to get in the playoffs regardless if he
Yeah.
misses the race.
It's like the PGA having the PGA championship and like Scotty Scheffler not being there. It's like
Yeah, it's
they
like,
wouldn't.
oh, yeah, that's just whatever.
You
Yeah.
got arrested at this tournament, so you can't plan our signature event.
Yeah.
So dumb. Let's
Yeah.
look at the horrible bet tracker. Just blood, so much blood. Gregson was shit. That was a dumb bet. Bubba Wallace top 10. I think was fine.
He was
I'm
all
not.
right. He kind of got mired in traffic, and he was victim to not being able to pass either.
Yeah, I probably got a little aggressive with Larson. The 14 I would do 100% again. The 7 is probably a silly bet given we saw 14. Um, I thought Larson was going to be Denny. I thought the Ross Chastain top 10 was there. I don't know. It was kind of like I think I'm going to try. This is what I'm telling myself. I'm sure it won't happen because, that's not how we roll. But like, I am going to try and at least be pre-flop, be a little more honed in, reserved. Because we were doing that to start the season, it was going much, much, much better. And then the last basically like 4 or 5 races have been just a fucking train wreck. So outside of you hitting, I think a winner or two, like
Yeah.
it's been gross.
Yeah, and let me say on my card, so Barry over Briscoe, I think I was on the right side there, but of course Barry sped on pit road. He wrecked.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a question that he was the better car. So that's just the nature of NASCAR betting. Like, you can't predict engine failures, running over debris, running out. I mean, running out of gas. That's just kind of silly. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Whatever.
mean, it shows it's like even as good of a job they can do with like kind of doing the math, it's still an inexact science. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it really does show you like how on the edge these teams are
Mhm.
getting in terms to cut the fractional seconds on pit road that they were even they thought they had an extra lap of fuel in
Yeah.
there.
And he
One
thought
extra lap's worth of fuel.
you could get to the front, stay there, and make it worth their while. Because as we mentioned a bunch of times, it's not easy to pass here. So
No,
you can
yeah.
do anything. Some teams were taking 2 tires to try and get to the front. Like you had to do whatever you could do. And I kept waiting. I figured we were going to get a late caution. I know last year there was a late restart with like 3
Yep.
to go. I think the last 2 years maybe. And nothing came. And all those cars that gambled basically got screwed and had to either come in and pit or Brian Blaney and ran out of gas. So a little bit of a frustrating race. But this week we move on to Sonoma. Is there anything, if we're Enjoy Illinois 300, you want to chat about before we move on?
I mean, going back to Denny Hamlin, yeah, he's making noise talking about he didn't think Larson deserved a waiver, but talk about a quiet weekend, and the dude still finished with a top 5. I mean, he
Yeah.
is on another level this
Yeah,
year.
he
When he
was
doesn't have the best car, he's
underwhelming,
still good.
and he never was going to win the race, but he was going to be in the top 3 to 5, and
Yep.
good on him.
Yep.
I thought once he kind of got stuck back in the 20s, he was going to be stuck there, but he ended up following Bell and somebody else up to the front. So good on him. Good, another strong finish. We should just probably start peppering Denny top 5s and stop overthinking all this other nonsense with Noah
Yep.
Gragson and Josh Berry and all these
Ross
other
Chastain.
jabronis. Ross Chastain. God. Next time I say anything about Ross Chastain or a watermelon man, just like Kyle, stop. No.
Let me just say we're going to the Trackhouse track,
I
Nashville in a
know.
couple of weeks. Like that's where I think it's gonna have to hit, and possibly in New Hampshire. Like I'm excited because I'm gonna be in New Hampshire for the race. So maybe that's the weekend. Maybe I'm smashing watermelons with Ross on the track. Let's
That
hope.
would be incredible. Please get video if that happens. I'm so tempted. Sonoma's about a 1.5 hour, 2 hour drive from here. I'm so tempted to jump in the car and go down there. It's gonna be 105 and 106 here the next couple days.
Ugh.
And there's no protection from the sun out there. It would just be miserable. And anybody who's
Hey,
been to Sonoma knows, like, if you get the 1 year where it's like 75, you go. Other than that, it's like 114. It's good old, I don't want to say Central California, but like Northern
it's like
California.
North Central. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's. I mean, sort of Bay Area, but it's not. It's a whole
yeah,
thing. So,
it's not Bay Area for sure.
anyways, all right, let's talk Save Mart, because last year you and we were on the NASCAR betting preview show. We talked Martin Truex up. We had him out
MTJ,
28,
MTJ,
33,
33-1.
cashing
Yep.
tickets, loving life. And a year later, he's back to being 4.5 to 1.
Yeah, that you
Superbook
cannot bet
has him as long
Truex.
as 6. So if you
Yeah.
really want some MTJ in your life, dig. But my God, is it a different world this year?
Yeah, and I think I was tweeting about it yesterday, and I sent a tweet out about this. So people have to realize we're on a new pavement at Sonoma. They just repaved it. Toyotas have new body styles. So we have new pavement, a new car that has not been on this track in race conditions. Yes, they did do a tire test that did include Martin Truex Jr., Josh Berry, and Ross Chastain. And so we also have a new short/road track package. There is a lot of unknowns coming into this week that have me looking at the top of the board and all of these guys in single digits and just thinking, no thanks, until I get to see what they look like in practice, see what type of pace they have. I really cannot get down on any of these dudes at especially 4.5. There's no effing way I'm betting that. 7 is too short. Gibbs at 8. I'm not betting Gibbs inside double digits.
Yeah.
And it like, yeah, there's just too much unknown for me to bet any of the favorites, especially when you have 6 guys inside 10 to 1. Even the books have no clue who should be the favorite here.
Yeah. I mean, we have, 7 guys? 3, 6, 7 here.
I
There's
miscalculated.
6 here. It is interesting. We're not, big enough experts to know if it really matters with the new package. We see at Phoenix, the new short track package was basically a non-factor. Does it matter this week? I'm curious. We should talk to Yoder and have him pick the brains of smarter people than us to see if they can if we should be factoring that in at all. Because it's like, does it really matter? Is it going to be important? Does that just mean that maybe the tires wear a little bit differently, and the older guys who tend to do better, you know?
Well, so I did a quick dive into this yesterday on the tire test, and Martin Truex Jr., who is widely considered probably the best driver at this track amongst the current Cup Series guys, he did say that it still races like Sonoma, but it's definitely different because you have a slicker track, and then also when they did the tire test, it was cool out. It's going to
Yeah,
be
it's
hot
gonna be
during the race, like you said.
it's gonna be toasty. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that impacts everything. Also, just like, yes, we're on another road course, but Sonoma and Coda and Watkins Glen and some of the other places that we go are all so different with the
Yeah.
elevation changes, with the tire wear, with all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. You don't want to go too crazy going, well, this guy's good at road courses. Yeah, but if this is the one road course where he stinks, then I would factor that in a lot more than worrying about, the fact that they're good at Coda or wherever else. So as you mentioned, 6 more names inside the top 10, inside 10 to 1. Chris Bell, Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick. Interesting group. I think potential bets could be made from this group, but also, like, do we want to be patient? Do we want to get stuck with a poor number on Kyle Larson? Chase Elliott, this is one of the places where he tends to do well, but like even last year where he made it stick because he stayed out, does that, did he actually have a race winning car, or did he just have a strong finish because he gambled and it worked out?
Yeah, I gotta admittedly I didn't hear any of that stuff that you just said because my freaking stupid headphones just went out on me. I'm assuming you're just talking about like eh, race manipulation for Sonoma, and
Well, I'm just wondering with Chase Elliott, like last year he stayed out, and that's why he had a better finish than
yeah.
in theory that he really should have. Um, are you interested in Elliott as a potential target, even if you're not firing right now, based on that, or do you think maybe he's still a second tier and you really need to get double digits in order to get him on your card?
Yeah, I'm not willing to get to Elliott at such short odds yet. If he does look good during practice, what's he going to go to 6,
Yeah.
like 7? He's not going to move much. So
Yeah,
I
especially with Truex and Bell and Larson and even Tyrone Gibbs, William Byron. Like Truex, like is kind of the marker. I think Larson could move significantly. Maybe Bell moves significantly. I think the rest of the group is kind of, they'll move a little bit, but maybe he's 7.5 to 1 instead of 9.
yeah, yeah. Even Larson, I don't think. We got all excited last week at 7, and then when he reopened at what was he 14 or something? People were
Mm-hmm.
firing at 14. I don't
I
know.
mean, I don't. I would do that. I would do that 14 again. I think he was fine enough. I think if he doesn't end up smashing the wall with Kyle Busch, he's probably a lot closer to the front. I
Yeah, but
still
I don't know if he had what it took to get to the front because they had openly admitted that HMS and just Chevy in general wasn't necessarily the best manufacturer at
sure, but
gate.
if he was where Austin Cindric was, he's beating Austin Cindric, and he might lose to Ryan Blaney if he stays fueled up, or Chris Bell if he doesn't have engine issues.
True, true. Yeah,
Um,
I'm not touching anybody inside single digits. I will say I am backing Red Dog once again at Superbook at 10 to 1. I don't mind getting there with that.
yeah, yeah, I think that's a good bet. As we get into double digits, Tyler Reddick 10, Chris Buescher 14. We got Dinger the Ringer back 16, Michael McDowell 16, and then we get into the 20s. So I think I think there's a few bets to be made in this range. As you mentioned, you're getting in on Reddick. I'm going to add Chris Buescher. I just
He
he's been
just forewarning. He opened at 16, and I hit that pretty hard
yeah. Yeah.
when that market opened.
I will grab 14 that's still floating around. I think that's a fine number. Next gen total speed rankings per iFantasy race at Sonoma 1 or Sonoma 2022, he was number 1, and at Sonoma 2023 he was number 2. So he is the best average speed ranking over the last 2 years. Buescher's kind of a guy that tends to pop at certain road courses. This is actually a good one for him. So I'm fine getting, especially after the last 2 years where he's been, the RFK guy. His Coda runs were a little bit better in the past, but I think this number at 14 I think is fine, and I'm happy to grab a piece.
Yeah, I don't mind going back to the well at the 14 number because I do think he's going to qualify decent. And then the only caveat to that is even at the 16 price that I got is if Buescher say qualifies, maybe inside the top 10, but say he's 9th or 10th, and you have the Toyotas like Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., and Tyler Reddick all put it on the first couple of rows with,
Yeah.
a couple tenths faster lap time, you're probably getting a similar number, if not maybe even a little bit longer, just because they're going to look at that and say, oh, well, over the duration of a race, like they don't have the speed to keep up
Yeah,
with those guys. But
I think 12 to 16 is a very realistic repost number post practice and
yeah,
qualifying. But I do think there's a world where he looks awesome. We've seen what he did the last 2 years, and we're talking about 8 or 9. So if you want to be patient, if you don't, especially if you can't get the 14, if you can get like 12, and you like Buescher, but you want to be patient, totally understand that, totally respect that. You want to see him look great. If he looks great, maybe you get a 9 or even an 8.5, and if you're fine with that number, then fire at that point. But I'm gonna add the 14.
yeah, it's a good number. I do think that there's definitely some potential value also if you're going to look at Buescher at 14 in Dinger and McDowell both in that 16 range, just because we saw McDowell last year really shine at road courses, and he's been a qualifying maven all of a sudden. I mean, he's got 3 poles. He's tied with Kyle Larson for the most on the year. And then Dinger, we always know he's good. And I think this might be like the longest number we've seen Dinger open at a road course in quite some time.
Yeah.
And he's a perennial top 10 qualifier at road courses. He's probably going to run inside the top 10 pretty much the entire race. And, Sonoma, I don't think is necessarily the track that he wins at, but I think he could qualify well. And then you're looking
Yeah.
at 10 to 1.
With McDriver, we talked about his pole bets, and maybe that's just how we attack it, because if we think he can put it on the pole, I mean, it's not like we can't play in like an options market where we can like, oh, I bought it at 16. He qualified well. Now he's 8, and I can cash that part out, right? So still need him to win, even though he put us on pole. Like last week, he went from McDriver to McAnchor and ended up in the back of the pack. So like I don't, even if you get 16, he puts it on the front row. If he ends up stinking and going all the way to the back, like what do we do? Because he was really good at road courses last year, but at the Roval he stunk, and then at Coda this year he stunk. So and we've seen him find some success at the shorter, flatter stuff. We saw obviously put it on pole last week, but then he stunk. It was fine at Phoenix. Like I don't know. Like he's a guy that based on his, but I don't want to take what Austin Cindric did and use it as a reason to be like, well, this it's track history is more important than current form. I think current form ultimately is more important. Obviously, Cindric was able to put together a really strong race, but that feels more like the outlier um, than expecting McDowell just to pop this week.
Yeah, I will say though that when you transition from an oval to a road course, it's 2 completely different skill sets. And I think the guys who are good on road courses, regardless of how they're running on the traditional tracks of the schedule, I think can show up and do well. And I think that's why AJ Allmendinger has had so much success, being a fill-in driver and why we call him Dinger the Ringer, because he's able to just step in to the Cup Series after a 25 race absence and be amongst the best on track, because it's completely different driving. Like, you're not as close to guys. It's more about throttle management, getting around the corners and stuff like that. So I'm not really looking at McDowell's struggles last week as something that I should be caring about here. I more so look at McDowell's like last two Sonoma performances, one with stage breaks, one without, and they were both really good. He qualified top 5 in both of those events. So I think that's also something to look at. Like, if he was able to do that last year and the year before, knowing the type of speed that this car has been bringing week in and week out on Saturday this year, I don't see why he can't do it again. And then again, you're looking at McDowell's number inside 10-1 possibly as a guy who the books then look at as a favorite to win the race.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. It is funny to think about them having to go right and left. A lot of these guys are very Derek Zoolander. I'm not an omni turner. only turn left.
Yeah.
Interesting group to say the least. Let's talk the next group. Hamlin 20, Austin Cindric 25. Does he dare go back to back?
He is going to garner so much attention this week. I got to admit, even I, just based on recency bias, looked at the number, but I went, no, I simply cannot bet Austin Cindric.
Daniel Suarez is 25.
Don't even you already said, look, I'm gonna hold you to it. You said you're gonna jump off the tracks with Trackhouse. So
yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's in the 3 of the last 4 years, but 3 of the last 4 years has started inside the top 10. But his finishes have been 22nd, obviously a win 2 years ago. I believe we were on that too. So Sonoma's been good to us. We got to figure out who our winner is going to be. And longer shots can find a way here more than at other tracks for sure.
Again, because it's 0% correlated to oval racing.
And then 12th, 17th, 15th, and 16th. So he's been a mid-teens driver for the most part. Is 25 the best number, or is there a 30?
Are you 25. Seriously considering?
Suarez is way more compelling, I think, than his teammate Ross Chastain. I have no interest in Denny Hamlin, but I will look at his odds to qualify on the poll, and maybe
better believe it.
Sneak one of those in.
And Ryan Blaney in matchups.
Ryan Blaney, we were kind of chatting a little bit about him. I don't know if I'm going to get to him on the outright market, but would like to get a little exposure to him just because I think he's better here than people realize. And the fact that Penske looked good last week, maybe it was, a fluke, but they felt like they brought something to the track. Hopefully they can do it 2 weeks in a row. Kyle Busch, 25. And then Will Brown, 28. So we I guess from the Cindric to Will Brown group, obviously we can price it. Will Brown's 30, Cindric's 25 here. Any interest in any of those guys?
It's going to be gross because he's the grumpy old man right now, but Kyle Busch at 30 has been, I've already bet that. He's been really good here at Sonoma. He's got top 5s in 4 of the last 5 trips to wine country. And again, like I don't really care what's happened on the ovals. I don't care about him fighting with Ricky Stenhouse or him just being super angry with Kyle Larson last week and intentionally wrecking him. Got a top 10 at COTA this year. And just, he's been so good at this track, basically regardless of what vehicle he's been in. And so, I want this number now, expecting him to qualify well, like near the top 10, or if he cracks the top 10, this is probably 15 to 20 to 1. So I'm getting a great value on that. And two, when you look at last year's Sonoma race, he was really the only guy that had anything for Martin Truex Jr. I think he led like 15 or 17.
No, he was definitely pushing him even at the end. Like, I thought he was going to make noise. I don't hate that call. You can get a 30 like Superbook has.
Yeah, and so like obviously the placement markets are a little bit sketchy right now, just because I don't know like who the middle tier guys are going to be. So I think that's a little bit difficult, but trying to find value in the outright market, I think there is some this week. And Will Brown. So I had to do some research real quick because it sounded familiar. I thought I heard about this a couple weeks. So he's basically doing the SVG. Like he's the defending supercars champion, I believe, jumping into the 33 RCR car. 30-1.
Don't hate it.
There is another market with Will Brown that I like a little bit better than his outright,
though. My dog is not a fan of your Will Brown call for what it's worth.
No. That was him saying yes.
Is that the sound of the dogs barking? Is Will Brown the underdog? He's gonna come through this week. All right. I see your gross call with Kyle Busch, and I say hold my beer. I'm gonna get real gross.
I'm guessing. Go ahead.
Who am I gonna say?
It's the guy who's like every other week we look at him. You're gonna go Alex Bowman at 60.
Nope.
Oh, Justin Haley.
Nope. Joseph Logano.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
He's been good here. Last year he was third. He was second after stage 2. Do we have stage break cautions, by the way?
Yes, they're back. Unfortunately.
The year before he finished 17th, but he was second after stage 1. He was first after stage 2. The year before he finished 4th, was second after stage 2. The year before that he was 23rd, but he was third after stage 1. He was 4th after stage 2. 2018 wasn't great. The year before that he was a top 5 car after stage 2. 40-1 on a guy who's been around the front. Like that feels like our Truex thing from last year. Obviously, his peak isn't what, Martin's is at this track, but he's been pretty solid, and I don't know. I don't hate it. 40-1. I'm going to take a nibble. And
I don't hate it.
Like if it was 25, I would be out, but at 40 I'm in. And I've bet a lot worse on a lot worse. So, and I'm not betting Daniel Suarez, so I might as well just take my shot with 40-1 and cry myself to sleep when he doesn't win.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And in the new short track package, like Logano has looked pretty good this year. So
yep.
Look, if he wins, I'm not going to hate it. I'm going to continue to harp on this. Like he is the second most exposure that I've had on a season long prop. I have his over 1.5 wins this year because he's never gone back-to-back seasons with one or fewer victories. And so I would greatly appreciate him getting one sooner rather than later. So
yeah, I think he's interesting for sure.
I don't hate that. I'm not going to put that on the card just because I cannot, like, me and Logano, we never go well, but I think I'll add that while I'm here in Vegas.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Yeah, I wanted to do the Bowman thing. After you mentioned him, I was like, oh, he is pretty good at road courses, but it really seems like he's a COTA guy, and like Indy Road, he's fine, but he's not really a Sonoma guy, and he's never really been, like, he's barely a top 10 guy most weeks. At Sonoma. I just, the 60 is nice, but I'm not going to run my head into the wall trying to hit these lottery tickets and try and find gold. I'd rather just be patient, find value. Maybe I'll find a top 10, even if it's, even money or something, and call it a day.
Yeah. So we have to look at race matchups on Superbook because I'm excited to debate with you on the matchup that I like with.
Oh
with
boy, I can't wait to fade you. We could just all right. Any other outrights you want to? Any of these long shots that you're even considering?
No, I absolutely not. I don't think that.
No,
I mean, we said it last week. Obviously, we didn't think
on pre or what is it 2,000-1? Yeah, 2,000-1 on Stenhouse.
Oh my god.
Just bet Stenhouse and Priest and Burton and John Hunter and Kaz Gralla. Put $1 on it, and you win $2,000 if any of them win. Josh
I think at
Berry
that
for
point you might as well just go take your dollar and throw it into a well for like a wishing well. Like I
throw it into the shredder and just speed up the process.
yeah, you have a better chance of winning that way than you do betting that.
Cindric, 20th in road course speed rankings, 8th at Coda in 23, then 30th, 19th, 24th, 22nd, 20th.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Thoughts and prayers to anyone betting him this week. Good luck.
I
Good
simply
on you.
cannot get to that. Yeah.
All right. Do we have? I'm guessing we don't have starting. We don't have qualifying odds.
No, they
All right.
they always drop those a little bit later.
So matchups, then we'll go there, and then maybe we'll look at some top 10 and stuff as we get out of here. MTJ minus 135 versus Ty Gibbs. Minus 135 versus Chris Bell. Minus 150 versus Kyle Larson.
That one's a really intriguing number because I don't know if people recall, but I believe it was sometime in 2022, early last year. Kyle Larson was always like the favorite at road courses. So
and that's what we did with Truex last year, where he was always the favorite, and then he had one bad year and his number ballooned.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. And his outright price really isn't that palatable, but I think in matchups like Larson versus Ty Gibbs, Larson versus Truex at plus money, I could do that.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out, have I gotten to your favorite head-to-head yet?
I think it's the last one on the list.
All right, let me see. I was gonna try and guess, but let's go to the bottom and see. So Joey Logano versus Will Brown is what you want to do?
Yes. Explain to me how Will Brown could be posted at 30-1 to win the race, and Logano is posted at 40-1 to win the race, and Will Brown is a plus 115 dog to Joey Logano.
Because Logano is a safer option. Will Brown is a new option. The books don't want to get burned by a huge outright price. Probably have weirdos like Werby like firing $10,000 on him at 60 or 80-1, and they had to smash the number. It's like the Kobayashi thing. We bet Kobayashi last year, or whatever his name is.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was like 100 at one point, and then at race day he was like 25-1.
Yeah.
And he was never a factor. But the books don't want to get burned on a big number, so they're gonna shrink the outright odds, and then they're gonna give you. And then because that's the other thing too is all of these markets work independently. So if everyone's hammering Will Brown on the outright market, he's 5-1, but everyone's betting Logano over Brown. Brown's going to be plus money, just so they can balance the book. So, I mean, more power to you if you want to go there. But I think based on Logano, it's actually better to target him in matchups in top 5s and top 10s than to actually go the outright market. But I'm betting him outright because I'm a glutton for punishment, as I like to say.
And so, of course, I'm fading Logano, so I'm betting Will Brown.
What about this one? Ryan Blaney plus 115 versus Dennis Hamlin. We talked about how sneaky Ryan Blaney can be. Hamlin's been good, but he's not really a road course guy.
Qualifying though, Denny Hamlin has been the best qualifier at road courses since the beginning of last year,
right?
And I think that this number could float.
So we get 160 on Blaney.
Yeah, so say Blaney sucks.
Yeah.
Qualifying or sucks in practice. I mean, then you're probably not betting it anyways. But say his qualifying lap F's up and Denny is fast as shit. You're probably getting plus 120, plus 125.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't see this flipping.
I also like this, but I think
I do like that one. Just safeness again, because Blaney has been good at Sonoma. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do start to worry though going forward when the stress starts to kick in for a Blaney, a Logano, who have yet to win. I mean, the worst driver in their camp has a victory, so his playoff spot is secure.
Stupid. Austin
It's crazy.
Cindric, playoff driver. What a world.
Yeah, it's wild.
I wonder what odds you could have gotten on him to make the playoff. Probably low.
Yeah. Well,
Or
I mean, with 16 guys getting in, I don't think anybody
it was
outside
probably
like the
plus money.
yeah, but probably like plus 180 or plus 2 to 1 or something.
Well, considering Larson's like minus 600 or something, probably minus 1,000. I don't know. What about Kyle Busch over Austin Cindric? It's minus 125. And I do worry about Kyle Busch ejecting, but all right, let's see.
Again, so I'll admit, so the matchup markets are a little tough to get to right now until we see them on track, in my opinion. Especially like when you got McDowell versus Busher. I think Busher's the safer play, but I think McDowell could show up and be a rocket.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when you're like excited about a couple of the options and they had to put them head to head. It's like, what do? You just pass it and don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think that matchup, Byron versus Elliott, is really intriguing because Elliott is known as the road course guy, whereas Byron's been really good at road courses and really consistent himself.
Yeah. He has the number 1 average speed ranking of anyone on road courses. Number 2 at COTA last year, 14th at Sonoma, 11th at Indy Road, but then 1 at Watkins, 5th at the Roval, and 1st at COTA this year. So, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't love. None of these are really jumping out to me. The only ones I kind of like are the plus money matchups versus Truex, but maybe we get a little better number if Truex comes out and smokes the field again. I don't know.
Pause. I don't see that happening though.
Let's see what we got over here. Anything? Race Gibbs versus Bell, Chastain versus Suarez, Dinger. It's so stupid that we have to. Like, it should be minus 110 on both sides. Like, this is garbage that they give us minus 115. Larson 135. Is that better?
Yeah, I think it was plus 115 here on Superbook.
It was 130,
Plus 130.
so not too bad. Yeah.
I mean, I will say as Wormy got on my case on during the during the pre-race poll, like for line manipulation. Continue to bet Martin Truex Jr. People, please let this float out as long as possible, so that way before I head home, I can hit Kyle Larson at like plus 140 versus Martin Truex Jr. And then when they practice and they're right around the same, and this number goes back to about even, I can come back and try to make a little bit back on Truex.
Yeah. Lock in a profit. All right, top 10 finishes. McDriver minus 120 feels nice.
I think there's a couple of plus money ones that I like a little bit better though. So Ryan Blaney and Kyle Busch, I'm betting both of those right now. I've already hit those pretty hefty. I expect both to be solid and good. And
Joseph
boom,
Logano.
again. Will Brown plus 140, Joey Logano plus 220. So who should be the favorite in the matchup?
I mean, it's pretty clear. Not Joseph Logano, but Logano plus 220 feels nice. I'm gonna have to add that.
So I will say, so I think that's how you do a matchup like that. So you bet Brown to finish ahead of Logano with the plus money, and then you also bet Logano with the top 10 number, because both can hit, and you're happy if they're both competitive.
Yeah. Is 220 the best number I can get? Actually, let me just.
Yeah, I think they're the only. Oh, I haven't checked Bet Rivers.
Let's see, Bet365. Do we have odds? Nascar. Top 10. 365 has
220. Same.
220.
Oh, they have Kyle Busch at plus 140.
Jump on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm adding.
And Rivers. You betting some table tennis?
No. That was 365 that had that plus 140.
Yeah. Isn't don't they do just NASCAR here?
Yeah, it's under Motorsports NASCAR Cup Series. They only have outrights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ooh, they have Chris Buescher at 16. I'm gonna add that to the card.
Yeah, I'm updating mine to 16. So fade
is
Chris
the best
Buescher in
number out there,
matchup.
by the
He's
way.
gonna stink.
Oops.
$220 at Caesars.
Yeah, I hear you on the books trying to prevent themselves from getting too exposed to an outright on that guy Will Brown, but the numbers show you like who should be the favorite in a particular matchup.
Yeah. Take advantage of it. Especially like the outright is different. Like the fact that he's that big of a favorite in terms of top 10 bets, that tells me that
Exactly.
the head to head is wrong.
Yeah, because that just means he's just going to be better inside the top 10, and they're expecting him to run there pretty much all day, whereas they feel like it's going to be much more difficult for Logano.
Hey Brian, you want to play a game?
Let's do it.
Who has the best driver average at Sonoma over the last 3 races?
Kyle Busch.
Right first name, wrong last name.
Kyle Larson.
Bingo, bango, bongo.
Oh, look at that. That goes back to my thing. Like please keep betting Martin Truex Jr. I loved him last year and I think he's going to be fine, but I don't think we can just discount Kyle Larson here. I know he hasn't performed well
Hey
the last
Brian, who
couple
has
of
the most laps led at Sonoma over the last 3 trips?
Martin Truex Jr.
Bingo, bango, wrongo. It's Kyle Larson who has 83 laps led over the last 3 races. Truex has 51. Then Daniel Suarez, 47. Then Chase Elliott, and then Dennis Hamlin at 35. So I am going to take Kyle Larson over Martin Truex at plus, was it 135?
135. Yeah, but if you actually bet that, that's going to prevent it from steaming the way that we want it. We want people to look at this that Martin Truex Jr. is just going to absolutely throttle the field.
I'm helping people out because I'm on the wrong side almost all the time. So if people, where was the 135? Caesars?
Caesars, yeah.
So jump on it, people. You'll love it. It'll be a fun time for you.
Ooh, here's a fun one.
Give it to me.
DraftKings has a matchup. Austin Cindric minus 110 versus Ross Chastain minus 125.
I can't do that. I can't do that. If I'm betting if I'm betting any Trackhouse car this week, it's definitely Tyrone or Daniel Suarez.
So they have Suarez versus McDowell, I think, and he's plus 105.
Yeah. I like to get paid out a little bit more. Oh, do we have... This is the part of the the episode where we kind of derail and start scrambling for different things. Here we go.
For losing bets.
Exactly. How many losers can Kyle and Brian find on this week's episode of The Angle of Pursuit?
That's awesome. So I think
Daniel Suarez at 12 for top Chevy. See, I like that.
I was gonna say
better.
I like the manufacturer market this week because I do think there's some value in some guys.
You bet Will Brown at 14. Logano is 10-1 to top Ford. Ooh, do I like that? I think I like that.
I mean, if you're high on Logano, I don't mind hitting that and not even worrying about his outright price. I mean, obviously you have a little bit of exposure, especially at the 40 spot, but 10 to 1.
It just like if I'm expecting him to be like a top 3 to 5 car, potentially contend for the win. The Toyotas are going to be up there. He could easily be
Yeah,
the
the
top
Toyotas are going to
4
be
at
good.
4th or 5th or 6th or even 7th if Hendrick shows up. So I don't know. That 10 to 1 seems overpriced.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had more Denny Hamlin matchups.
So you could fade him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're fading him to a certain extent. You're fading him more so in the vantage point that, road courses aren't necessarily his forte, and
Yeah.
I mean, the books obviously know that as well, so
See, what I want to do is bet Denny Hamlin to get on the pole and then fade him on race day.
yeah, that makes sense. Man, I kind of want to hit that Larson number, but
Bet
I want it
it.
to float. I want it to get bigger. I want like plus 140, plus 145.
Well, don't be greedy. Take your profit and lock it in.
All right, let's play a quick game real quick, and let's go to the race winner.
Okay.
Who are your top 3 drivers that you think have the best shot at winning this week?
Regardless of outright price,
Yeah.
honestly, probably the favorites: MTJ, Bell, and Larson.
All right.
I think those are my 3. It's definitely Truex. It's probably Bell, although like Bell's one of those guys that I feel like is either awesome or like not so awesome. So I don't know, maybe he's. I mean, I guess is who are the other names that we should be content that would actually be contenders here? Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher.
All right. So since I asked you, I'll tell you mine. So my first one would be Christopher Bell. I wouldn't even
Okay.
consider Martin Truex Jr. I know he's incredible last year, but I think Christopher Bell, just in terms of what he's doing right now in the Cup Series, just overall speed and the how do you say that? Like the positive nature of the last couple of races, although he had a disappointing finish last week, is the first one. We're not talking about William Byron enough. If again, fastest speed ranking at road courses. He won COTA, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, he won COTA, completely different road course style, but I don't think we talked about him enough. And as much as I like Tyler Reddick, I'm betting him 10 to 1 just because I think he's going to win. I do think that there's a conversation to be had about AJ Allmendinger, who will always be a competitor at road courses and is likely to be running top 5 by the end of this race. And if with the correct, pit strategy and say they hit on the setup, I could see Allmendinger taking this win as well.
See, and with someone like Dinger, especially as a not full-time Cup guy anymore,
Yeah.
I have no interest in like even top 5 bets on him. Like I want all the marbles or none.
Yeah, you want to get paid on Dinger for sure.
And maybe a manufacturer bet could make some sense, but
Plus
like
550.
I don't feel that good. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that tells you like how competitive he's going to be
Yeah.
against the HMS guys who are the favorites, to win the race. Like when you look at that, the separation in the outright market is almost $6 full, whereas here it's less than 2. So it's telling you like he's closer to an outright than the outright number kind of indicates,
Yeah.
And then at that point, he's just battling the 2 Toyotas, who I think, like honestly, if you're asking me if I had to choose the 2, I would bet Christopher Bell over Martin Truex Jr. right now.
That's interesting.
Based on price.
That's interesting. Speaking of things I'm betting right now, I'm adding Dinger to the card based on that conversation.
I'm just telling you, man. Like I haven't been on him the last couple of Cup races, and he's always there. I always regret not betting him because he's always competing inside the top 5 or near the top 5.
And he's coming off of a road race at Portland where he looked like he was
Portland.
going to be awesome until he went to the backup car, and he still had a good race. This guy just knows how to turn both ways, and not everybody can do that as efficiently. So I told myself
And
I wouldn't get too crazy, and here I am with 6 bets, but that's okay.
yeah, and we talked about it like last year. We came into this race and he qualified 5th, and he finished 6th. So
Yeah. All right, Brian, we've been going for an hour. Is there anything else you want to look at before we get out of here, or should we just give the people a card update and call it a day?
I mean, I could talk all day about this because I'm excited to get into this like real road course, not
Go
Coda.
spray the board before you leave fabulous Las Vegas. I'm gonna pull up our betting card. We can talk about what's on it, and then we can go from there. All right. So I have 3 outrights. I have all longer shots. I will probably add maybe one Truex, Bell, somebody, Larson. I don't know. Busher 16, Logano 40, Dinger 16. Logano top 10, Logano top Ford, and Larson over Truex. So the Logano top 10 I'm a little heavier on, but the top Ford and the outright price I have less than a unit on combined, so I'm fine with that. And then I have Larson over Truex just because I think that number is good. And I think these guys are pretty even, and if I can get a bigger plus money, then I'm going to take it. So, Brian Twining, your card is growing as we speak. Please explain who is on your card, where your head is at, and what you potentially may do between now and qualifying.
Yeah, so I have 4 outrights right now, all like the mid to longer shot guys. Reddick is my only like favorite that I like this week. I just think he's been so good at road courses. Last couple haven't necessarily been the best results, but in terms of speed, I think it's there. I love the 10-1 number. I think this is much shorter, possibly even the favorite after practice and qualifying. Kyle Busch, 30-1. I would be smashing that if you have that available to you right now. Chris Buescher and AJ Allmendinger, I think, are also going to be incredibly good this weekend. And then I have 2 placement markets, Ryan Blaney and Kyle Busch. I think they're both just really good at this particular road course. And of course, I'm fading Joey Logano with the Will Brown bet at plus 115 because he's much shorter in the outright market and much shorter in the top 10 market and probably shorter in the top 5 market. So the number doesn't make any sense. And I'll probably be looking at more matchups, trying to find ways to fade Denny or hopefully letting that Kyle Larson number float out a little bit larger and then adding it so I can get like plus 140, plus 145. And I'm waiting to see the William Byron market develop because I want to see if people are just kind of avoiding him. And if so, I'm going to hammer that late in the week because he's been too damn good to avoid on road courses, in my opinion.
I'm adding one more bet. I'm adding Kyle Busch as top 5. I'm looking at the top 5 market over on Caesars. He's behind Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Denny Hamlin, Austin Cindric. And I don't think that's correct. So I'm going to, I'm a little worried that he doesn't have the race winning car, but he's really competitive. I'm also not looking, I don't love like top 10 as much as I want to get paid out if he pops. So, and top Chevy feels like, what's his top Chevy price? Let me actually look at that before I make it.
Isn't he like plus 550?
550 is pretty tempting.
Let me look. Oh no.
No.
He's 12-1.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
That's a good number.
That's an incredible number. I'm not betting 375 when I can get 12-1. And I know Larson or Byron or somebody might smoke him or Dinger, but 12-1 on a guy that I think can really make some noise and doesn't have to win to do that. In. So Buescher, Logano, and Dinger are my outrights. Busch top Chevy, Logano top Ford, and Logano top 10 with Larson over Truex. Brian and I will be back on probably Sunday morning. We have qualifying and everything on Saturday. Once that's all done and in the books, so I'll get everything together. Brian and I will meet. Brian, you'll be back in home on Sunday.
I'll be back in the comforts
Saturday?
of Southern California. Yes.
All right. So we'll record that on Saturday, get that out as quickly as possible. The newsletter will return in full this week, so make sure you're subscribed to that so you get that in your inbox every race day. AOP Podcast, substack.com. Get some DraftKings thoughts, get some betting thoughts, get our links to our videos, get our full betting card, all that good stuff. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.